But that's also not always going to be the case. So just make sure that you have strategies for yourself. Like if you like to read or like listening to music, I found on my last tour, like I was not like listening to music for fun. And I realized that about like halfway through. So then what I ended up doing was just like making a playlist of like a song from like a local artist in every city that we were in or driving through. So that way I could like still kind of be playing into my interests while I'm on the road. So yeah, that was fun. It also like introduced me to a lot of new artists that I would
to our mental health. When you're loading it, especially when you're loading out, loading it isn't so bad. When you're loading out, put some damn music on. If it's funk, even better. You ever seen someone sad listening to funk? No. So I every loadout on every tour, I get some like if
do well. Um, and then especially if you let them know that you want to do the same thing. So I would say just yeah, reach out as much as you can. And you might feel annoying and that's okay. Like that's how it's gonna be. Like I used to work in sales and every single time I cold call anyone I felt annoying. But you gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you'll feel annoying. You will feel. I feel annoying all the time. I hate it so much. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Well said.
Lyric, this is all you.
Rig world. Hello. This is my world. I actually did a rig workshop. I don't know if any of you got. I see some people that had attended it. I'll give a quick breakdown. Um, First, the rig needs to be broken into what level of tour are you doing and what do you need it to do for you? Is it just running in-ears? Is it running tracks? Are you do you need like I said, there's so many levels to this. A super easy basic rig could look like a laptop with an interface, and that could be your rig. Um, However, I would advise like a proper touring rig for that's scalable. You should have some type of digital mixer like an X32. Splitter Snake's really great to have. That way you have control of your own mix every night. You could run direct to save yourself a lot of money. In-ears themselves, I don't mean the actual buds, I mean the units are where you're going to lose a lot of money. They're about 2K a piece for the good ones. Uh, Not something you want to cheap out on. I would not go lower quality than a PSM 300, sure. Those of you who are interested, I would definitely write that down. You might be able to get away with the mono channel X5 rechargeable ones for smaller things, but I wouldn't do big gigs with them. And I'd be very hesitant going to busy cities with a lot of RF or like old Toronto buildings and stuff like that. Actually, Mikalyn and I played a show where we had those problems too. It's just an old building. I was in the hideout we did. I can't remember. Anyways. Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted. Was it not Lee's Palace? Was it there?
It might have been Lee's.
I think it was Lee's Palace.
Oh, it was the cave. It was the cave.
Yes, 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 yes. Is that above Lee's Palace?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, Lee's
yeah.
itself is really bad for that too. By the way, I've played there and had some problems with good systems. So yeah,
Mhm.
some in ears. So your digital mixer, splitter, in ears, in a rack case, and a power supply, like a power conditioner. I would get not just a power supply. There's a difference. That's the super basics. As for that, I mean, then we get into the difference between the instruments. A lot of people are running silent stages these days. If you don't know what that is, a bit of research will help you out with that. But basically, it means that there's no amps on stage. The only thing making noise is the vocals and the drums, really, and everything else is just going direct. They're running through ears. That's what silent stage means. It's the way a lot of people, a lot of venues are running things. It's very efficient, and the fact you can keep your same mix every night is what's beneficial. But there is, just be warned, if you are going to get into touring rigs and stuff like that, it's expensive. Like you're not going to build this rig overnight unless you got a lot of money. I mean, hey, get after it. But there's expensive and there's a heavy learning curve. Um, so get ready for both of those things. All in all, though, it's not an insurmountable task. It's just another skill in the book. And for all of my musicians, supporting musicians in here, you need other skills. You being good at your instrument and doing what you do is not enough. Um, I just got hired for a gig with Jennifer Page this coming weekend, strictly for the fact there's a million guitar players that could play the parts that I'm playing, or singers that could have sang the backups I'm singing. They hired me because I do that, and I build rigs, and I have the knowledge about how to run tech, how to run, what's going to go on for backline. I can speak the language and deal with that stuff for them. That's what's getting me hired. And that's what you need on a tour. And that's where we get into those multiple hats again. So don't shy away from it just because it's difficult. Add the skill to your arsenal. Artists, even if you think, oh, I'm just an artist, I'm never going to work for anyone else or do anything else. If you're playing with another act and you're like, hey, or you're going on tour and you have a rig, that's massive because they're going to have to rent that otherwise if they don't have it. Or you build your rig and you could rent it out. Like, hey, we only other ways to make money, guys. All musicians are all broke. I mean, maybe I'm speaking for myself here, but just rolling the dice. That's my 2 cents on rigs, in a very condensed manner. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on Slack after. Happy to answer anybody.
Yeah, I genuinely have nothing to add there. Like rigs, that's all you. That's all you. I don't know anything about them. I was so glad that I got to be like the artist coordinator in the room when Lyric was doing his IEM workshop because I was like writing this down.
Good fun. Kaylin, you want to take it away?
Yeah, so I think like kind of just going back to what we were talking about before is like having your setup down, reaching out a lot to different people. And something that I didn't really consider when I was doing smaller tours on my own is figuring out where you're gonna stay. Yeah, I don't know why I hadn't thought about that these drives were long and I was not really wanting to sleep in my car. So like I know there was this band that was touring once. They were doing like a Southwestern Ontario tour. They like reached out to me or like, can we stay in your basement? Because they knew I lived in Guelph. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'd literally never met them before. I've never met them again, but they like stayed in my house. So sometimes you like maybe want to do some research beforehand so that you don't end up having to couch surf with strangers just because it's like not the best. Um, but that's more of like a like back end type of thing. I think like yeah, again, it just kind of comes down to where are you going to play? Where do you want to play? how many shows do you want to do? And what is your goal of this tour? Are you trying to sell merch? Are you trying to promote a product? Are you trying to like get seen more in these different local scenes? Are you trying to expand your reach? Figure out what your goal is first. But I think for domestic tours, especially, like kind of going where you know that people are going to go out and like listen to music. So that said, too, though, for domestic tours, like sometimes like I will play these shows in like Listowel and lots of people come out because there's not always too much going on in Listowel. So like kind of think outside of the box a little bit with it. Like obviously if you're in like Ontario, I think a lot of us are in Ontario right now. Like yeah, you'd want to play Toronto, but like stop by Guelph, stop by like smaller cities on the way to like London. London has a really like bustling music scene. Maybe try like going out to Quebec. Like, you don't have to like bite off more you can chew, but I think it's like cool to do a bunch of smaller shows and even like exploring those smaller, super small markets where there's like not too much going on, but they have a music venue.
Yeah, smaller markets are domestic, sticking domestic. You got to hit it, take advantage of it. And Mikalyn was exactly right. A lot of these places have nothing going on. Be surprised. Some of my best shows ever have been the smallest towns where we have the best times. Like my last East Coast tour I did with my band, their Dubee project. Like I don't even remember the name of the town. It was so small, and it was like 150 people, and every single person had the time of their life, and we loved it. It was like one of the smallest shows on the tour, and we hit a ball. So, don't shy away from those places. And hey, we got paid. It was great. We maybe sold lots of merch. We did better on the smallest show than we did in the biggest one, which is just super ironic. And the way it goes often, people like connection. Be personable, unless your whole thing is being aloof, and then be aloof personably, whatever that means. So it looks like you tell me.
Would you guys have recommendations on how many DIY shows to do before you get a tour manager?
A lot, like a lot more than you think, even, I would say.
I was gonna say I don't know that it necessarily it depends on what level you're coming in at. Like, if you're coming in with budget and you're coming in with a very polished production, like, so let's say, like, all right, I'm going through, I just dropped 30K on this record and I'm going right for an opener slot. Get a tour manager right away. Especially if you're new, you don't know what you're doing. You don't want to be figuring that out on that level of thing. You have that amount of budget, and these I'm talking for reference, and like if you were to do like a buy-on tour or something like that, which are extremely common, and probably one of the best and most reliable. I hold on best. One of the most reliable ways to get shows and make sure that you're having people come out. But it's expensive. So, like I said, if you're investing a lot of money and you're not haven't done a ton of shows, then yes, do manage. Otherwise, what Mikalyn said, and is you do a lot. Be very comfortable. You want to know. You got to understand, like when you're getting someone to come in and work for you, you got to know exactly what it is that they should be doing. You know what I mean? Like, so if you've been in those shoes before yourself, especially if you've done it more than once, you have certain expectations. You can make sure they're met appropriately and that the jobs are getting done right, which is an important thing. It sucks that we send our and again, picking the right team is a huge part of avoiding these kinds of issues. But reality is, when no one cares more about your project than you, no one, and so you're asking people to it's like it's your child, it's your baby, it's everything. So you're asking them to care about something that's everything to you that's just a job to them. And again, picking your team is a big part of what's going to change that. But just keep that in mind. And I don't think there's ever a downside that's come from experience. There's negative experiences, but you can learn from them. And that's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. Like just have your show down and be ready. Like have experience and like I think just the more that you do, the easier it'll be when you hit the road. So you just got to prepare a lot beforehand.
Moving on to some more questions about being a touring musician. What should you prepare if you want to be a touring artist?
Artist or musician, like we're talking like for other people or your own artist.
Um, I assume this is more about being like a backline musician.
Gotcha. So what should you have prepared, basically to consider yourself one or to not be concerned? Um, You should be able to quickly and effectively learn songs. You should be extremely reliable. You shouldn't make a lot of mistakes. Mistakes everyone's going to make, but the more polished your skills are, the less likely they are to occur. Prepare, 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 prepare. You're likely, if you're doing an original project, you're going to want songs memorized. Start by charts, trim them down, trim them down, trim them down until they're gone. Knowing how to read is a great one too. Like this gig I got, I'm learning headliner show in 2 days. Charts are everything for me right now. I'm reading everything. So knowing how to read, is it a necessity? No. Is it helpful? Yes, big time. So I'm not going to sit here and say you got to learn how to sight read. You don't. But you should at least be able to effectively and efficiently make charts and refer to them, so you're not being you know, the weak link, if you will. Have yourself very well sorted for the tools of your trade. I have multiple fly rigs. I have multiple local tour rigs that all achieve different jobs. So being mindful to, I wish unfortunately it's in the studio downstairs. I wish I had it with me. I could show you guys. But my rig is very compact and it does everything I need it to. And I have all the sounds I need. This could just be a guitar addiction, but ultimately I can cover every bass that I'm required to cover. So again, if you're only doing one thing, it's not as big of a deal. I play a lot of different genres, but if you're just doing country, you should have like a couple Tellys, a Strat, and a Les Paul just to cover the bases, or maybe not the Strat, because you got single coils, throw in like an arch top or something in there for the old style stuff. Be mindful to how you're building your gear. Now, this works for everybody. Singers, do you have a mic that complements you well? Or is your live mic, is it just the first one you got? Is it just the 58? Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the 58. That 58 might be the mic for you, but make sure you have the mic for you that serves you best. They may have one for you, they may have a preference, but if you have something yourself, use it. Drummers, you got to have different options for cymbals. You got to have a couple different options for snares. Your core kit, I mean, hey, I'm not asking you to go buy 5 drum kits, but a second option is a nice choice if you have it. That is, get insurance, guys. Get insurance on your gear and yourself. Like that's something that people forget. I'd say what you should prepare ahead of time if you want to be a touring musician and get comfortable sleeping in uncomfortable places.
Yeah. Genuinely the only thing too to add, because again, like I'm coming from the like back of house or the artist perspective, and I like haven't ever done a tour as like the piano player, or like the keyboardist or anything like that. But what I've noticed in every tour that I've either been on or observed is the musicians who are supporting the tour are chameleons. A lot of them have played in multiple genres, but they become a part of the artist brand. They like morph into like whatever the headliner or the opener, whoever they're supporting, they like morph into an artist that like looks good on stage with them. So you get like you can adapt into different aesthetics depending on what the show is. Like you wouldn't wear the same thing for like a country show as you would like the guitarist on the tour that we did is like she was literally the coolest person I've ever met in my life. I love her. Sometimes she plays in country, and this was definitely more like dark pop, like alternative. And so, like, I was stalking her Instagram after I met her, obviously, because I'm like, whoa, so cool. I'm gonna be living with her for like 2 months. And as I was scrolling down it, and she was doing her country shows, like I was seeing her in these outfits that, like, knowing her now, I could never have pictured her in. But it was because she was doing these headline tours with a country artist, and now she like is doing these tours with like more alt pop artists, and so you kind of have to be able to like match your aesthetic to the artist that you're supporting.
Yeah, very very much so. If you guys go on my Instagram or socials there, you'll see me go from full cowboy boots, cowboy hat, playing rodeos to looking like an absolute demon in death metal bands. Like, with face makeup and the whole 9 yards, spikes and chains and everything else under the sun. So, it's fitting the vibe is a big one. And knowing how to present yourself for the project you're looking at is another big thing. And I think a skill that people forget about. Because, like, oh, I want to show all of this. No, show what they need to see. What's going to get you the gig? That's the question. Like, I'm playing pop and now I'm looking super contemporary and normal today. Like, tomorrow might be a different story, right? So, yeah, that was a really good point, Kim.
Following up on that question, What is the best way to get on tour as a backline musician?
Most of your stuff is going to come from sub work. You're going to start as a sub, and it's going to evolve from there. So build your your community around you of good players. Like I have a few players that I trade gigs with all the time because we're all busy and we work together, and it slowly expands and people get added in, and then more gigs can come from that. It is competitive, highly competitive. If you miss one gig, every band is different. There's a good chance you're out though and someone else is in. And it's nothing. And another thing to remember, I really want to make this point for musicians because a lot of people get butthurt about this. Guys, you cannot take it personally. Like I'll use an example in my life. I played for Kelsey, Maine for years. I had to miss a couple shows one summer. And Ryan Cassar ended up taking the gig, and now he's in the gig full time. And I play for Kelsey every now and then. Now I'm the sub guy, even though but that's just the way it goes. I was busy, he was around, now he's in. I love Ryan. We're good friends. You know what I mean? Like I have no issue with anything that the fact that I'm not a main guy in that band anymore because I know it'll come around and what goes around comes around. So keep that in mind. Please don't take it personal when you get removed from projects and stuff like that, guys. It's I mean sometimes it's you, but it's not you. The reality is that that's just the name of the game. Artists have to pick people that best serve a job at whatever that time is. Maybe that means of affordability, that means of availability. That could just be that means of other things they bring to the band. Maybe they're able to drive the bass player. Sorry, bass players. Maybe they know things about the rig. Maybe they do some background vocals. Maybe they're on another one of the shows with another band, or they're already out in that country, or there's something for something else they have going on. It's more effective. There's things you don't always know, guys. Don't assume. Just take it in stride. Another gig is going to come up. Yes, it's competitive. I know they're hard to come by. Just be consistent. Be reliable. Don't be late. Don't be loud. Don't be drunk. Those are my three things to say. Never be late, loud, or drunk, because those are the three things most all musicians are, and you never want to be any of them.
Yeah, honestly, like I don't even have much to add. That was perfect. But I'd say like really it is just your network, and a good place to start is by like even in this environment, you guys are all part of a co-op where everyone who is a part of it is a musician or music adjacent. So this is a great place to start. Like kind of befriending your fellow artists because like Lyric said, when they can't do something, they'll be like, "Oh, I can't," but like this person can. One of my good friends, we started out just like as both musicians in the same area, and we've now become very close friends. Her name's CJ Cooper. And anytime that I don't have the availability or bandwidth to do a gig, I immediately send them CJ's name. She does the same for me, and I've gotten so many gigs through her recommendation. So and then when she does her full band shows, she'll come to me because I've done stuff with a band before and be like, who do you use? So it's really like about um networking and making sure that you're seen like playing in your local community. And if that's even hard at this point, like if you're not doing gigs as regularly, start with open mics and then you're gonna like work your way up. And even as like a backline musician, like you can go and play your instrumental. I mean, drums might be hard, but I wouldn't be upset if I was at like an open mic and someone like came with their kit and like drummed at me. Like that'd be awesome. But really, yeah, just like know your environment and try to just show up and be a good person in that environment. Like Lyric said, don't be like drunk, rude, late, like none of those. So just be reliable and yeah, trust that people will recommend you. You want them to remember your name when someone's like, "Hey, I need a guitarist for this gig on this day." Like, who do you know?
Absolutely. And I actually kind of just want to add on to let's carry on with a good way to scale. Scaling is a question I get a lot. They're like, how do you go from playing like shows to 200 people to 60,000, right? Like to get on like those bigger stages and get those kind of festival gigs and stuff like that. And the answer is put yourself around people that are already there or in stages. It's all about scaling. You're not just going to, I mean, maybe you are just going to suddenly go do a great big gig. Um, and that's happened to some people. I've done it to musicians. I've hired musicians where it's like their seventh gig, and I'm taking them to China to play in front of 20,000 people. Like, you know what I mean? It does happen, but don't rely on that. So a good idea, and what I would recommend doing is, like I said, I chose the tech world. It's because it's very useful, and you're going to surround yourself with a lot of. It's easier to get working with bigger get around bigger artists and bigger bands if you're in that tech world and you're working with the venues that do them. So another thing you could do is reach out to look up the bands that are opening for. So pick a festival, do Ottawa Blues Festival. It's the last one I played. Nickelback was playing. What would have been a great idea was if someone looked up the band I was playing in, and if you're a drummer, look up the drummer and say, "Hey, man, I really like what you do. I'm trying to get there. Can I come drum tech for you for free? Like, I just want to learn." People will take help. That if, hey, can I be a stagehand? Can I lift crap for you so you don't have to? Do that, and then you're gaining a positive reputation. You're putting yourself in the environment. Putting yourself in the environment, I think, is honestly half the battle. Get around the people that are doing what you want to do. A good example is if you want to be healthy and fit and you want to meet healthy and fit people, go do things healthy and fit people do. Go to the gym. Go join a marathon. Whatever it is that floats your boat. But you are, as a musician, I think in general, you are who you surround yourself with. So surround yourself with other working professionals like we have here, this great community of it.
How would how would you guys deal with technical difficulties on tour?
I think I'm thinking back to the tour I was just on, and like there was probably a technical difficulty every day. Like that is so inevitable. It doesn't matter how rehearsed and how ready you are and how good your setup is. You're going from venue to venue to venue. We'd have sound issues in one venue that we didn't have for the rest of the tour because of just how the room is. Literally because of like it being like a little more echo. I don't even know because I'm not a tech person, so I don't know what the problem is. All I know is I'm hearing feedback. Um, like I think that Lyric can probably answer this more because he understands the tech, where I am definitely not someone that understands the tech. I just think that like our TM and front of house like work magic, and that's that. Um, but I think that like the main thing when any crisis happens, and I'm speaking to like what I saw my TM do, who was dealing with the like sound kind of crises, but also just any crisis that happened on tour. He was so calm, no matter what was going on, whether we were having sound issues or we were having like the bus breakdown for the third time on the tour, which is kind of crazy. Um, Turns out that's not supposed to happen. But like he would not let himself get super frazzled. And I think that that's like really important. And it was like honestly amazing for me to see. I was like, wow, like this, and this is going wrong. And yet Jordan is just chill as ever. Because at the end of the day, when something's going wrong, freaking out isn't going to change anything. You need to be able to like ground yourself so that you can deal with it and figure out, okay, well, if this is going wrong, then how are we going to handle it? Maybe we'll push back meet and greet like half an hour. It's not the end of the world. Like, just don't catastrophize and make sure you're like thinking clearly because how else are you going to solve the problem? But I'll pass that over to Lyric because I honestly like I didn't know whenever anything was going wrong, like my TM was so like chill about it that I didn't even know till afterwards when we were debriefing.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the grand scheme of what I was going to get. I'll get a little more specific. Um, have an order of operations that you do for troubleshooting. What is the issue? Is it sound related, technical? Is it other issues rise in touring? Like you get there and they've got the wrong amount of hotel rooms, like things like that happen. But I'll just talk about tech for a second, because you can kind of follow the same process. And I say make an order of operations. So say okay, have things that you know are most likely to be what's causing an issue. Check those in order of severity, the least severe first to the most severe. Don't start by ripping apart the rig or your pedal board or whatever it is. You're a musician. Know your setup very well. That's your job. All right. It's not for someone else. A lot of people like to, oh, I'll have someone else build my board. That's how it is. And that's fine. You can totally hire someone to do that. And you should, if you want, if that they're professional and that's what you want to do with your money and your time. Um, but you still need to know what's going on because you need to be able to fix things. So that's your gear is your responsibility. So make sure it's in good working order and make sure you know how to troubleshoot it. You understand signal flow. I think it's probably the most important thing for any sound issues, properly understanding signal chains and how they work and what goes where and when things happen so that you can figure out what could be causing this issue. I have a great example of a massive technical issue we had in the very last show, the last tour with the Fell. which is Billy Sheehan's band. We at the last show they were getting the guitar volume was jumping in the ears. We don't know if it was happening in front of house, but in the ears it was flying around like crazy. So first things first, okay, what could the issue be? The most reliable thing to change is the cord connecting it to the rig. So we swapped XLRs. Wasn't that? All right, now it could be the guitar wireless. Direct wire the guitar. Wasn't that? All right, now we get into some slightly bigger issues that we could be facing. We could be having some maybe someone's accidentally moving the mix because it's all connected via Wi-Fi. So maybe something happened there. Unplug the router, make it just hardwire so I can control everything. Still see it's jumping around. Swap the cables again. You go on and you find trying to find the least problem. It ended up being an RF issue, which there was nothing we could do about, especially mid-show. It was like the fifth from last song or something. And an important thing to do when you're in a crisis, take notes. I have notes on my computer open of everything I did. Troubleshooting that has been done. I literally issues most certainly between the splitter and the guitar rig. Issue most certainly is not the snaker cable. Must be the jack on the quad or the splitter no in the front of house. Know this as front of house is getting the same issue. We went mono guitar to see if we could solve it. Confirmed no mix automation on rig. Wireless only area is the issue on that note. Plugged in directly to Mike's rig to confirm physically watched his mix to ensure level stayed equal, both on send and on the input. Nick had physical cable issues with everything cutting out, so that was the whole issue. So I'm itinerizing every problem that comes up so I can review it after, because ultimately I was tech on the show. It's my job to fix these things. So no matter what your job is, be diligent when it comes to the repairs, because you don't want an issue to repeat itself, especially on tour. And that's the advantage we have with these repeated shows, is that we get to extreme test stress everything we have going on our show. And I don't just mean stress test your hardware. I mean you. how everything is, everybody performing, is everyone delivering? And like I said, we have the other issues that you would face. I would just stay calm. Like, that sounds like Mikalyn had a really good tour manager. I've definitely had some tour managers that they don't do the whole staying calm thing. They kind of just freak out and it just makes everything hell. So be chill. Ultimately, if there's nothing you can do to fix it, there's nothing you can do to fix it. Just keep trying. And be cool. That's all I got.
I think that's most of the questions that we had prepped. I can see in the chat right now that there's a question about how much money people are expected to lose on their first tour, like for a budgeted smaller tour, say locally in Ontario or Quebec, for example.
How many shows? How big's the band? What are you running for a rig? Are you renting a rig? Do you have a rig? There's a lot of questions that go into that. I'll make a hypothetical situation. You're doing a 5-show tour. You're staying at home base every time. It means you're coming back. It's in the space of a week and a half. Your estimated show size is a venue cap of about 400. You're expecting to get about 150 tickets sold a venue, and you're in a 4-piece band. With that in mind, Mikalyn, do you have a number in your head with what I just gave?
Honestly, no. I'm trying to I'm looking back right now to see if I have any sheets that are from when I was doing smaller tours to see if I can find like a numerical figure that I could share for like a smaller budget thing. So I'm just looking at my computer to see if I can find anything. I don't know if I'll be able to because this was an old computer that when I was doing like my small little indie tours. I'd love to be able to tell you guys how much money I lost exactly and like what I did. I think on my smaller tours that I do myself though, um, it was easier to come close to like breaking even or even making some money. Um, because it was literally like me and my dad, who I'm obviously not paying, sorry to him. Um, and like I had a very small like amount of people that I had to pay because I was making my dad do sound tech and load in and a lot of different things. So thank you to him. And I'd make my sisters do things too, and I wasn't paying them either. So very different experience than what I've seen. But Lyric, you take it away. I'm gonna keep looking for this. I don't know if I'll be able to find it.
Yeah, I usually hire my musicians. I don't have a set band per se, so I pay my musicians every time. So I'm losing, for typical small tour with my marketing and everything, expect to lose a couple $100 a show is what I'd say. I mean, if you're doing a big tour, you can lose a lot of money. Like I know, I want. I've never been told not to tell anybody this, but I played for a band that did a big bus tour, and I know they lost $750,000, um, which is a lot. They had the money to spend, and they made some too. But it was a very big tour. It was a lot, and it was far above their means, to be honest, for where the artist was at. Um, I just spoke to a friend of mine who was touring with Black Veil Brides. The average, so this is a buy on tour over the course of a month and a half. I think they lost. They did the best actually. I think they were just breaking even. They had planned to lose 50 grand. Um, and then I know one of the other openers lost about 75. Visas are a big portion of that. These are UK bands coming to the States, so I'm coming to North America. So it can range. Like that's why labels exist, right? But I'm not saying go get to a label because I'm not going to sit here and promote labels to you guys, but they will often cover touring expenses to be paid back by you. Make no mistake, but they'll front it and then just take it from your royalties.
I will also say too, I've even like lost money trying to get experience in the tour. Like I volunteered with like smaller bands going on tours because I wanted to get experience on the back end of things. Um like it was a van tour with a heavy metal band. And so it's like sometimes I wanted to like get experience. I thought like being a tour manager was something I wanted to explore, or like honestly merch. That's kind of how I got into merch sales because like they just needed someone to sell their merch. And I was like, don't have to pay me, like whatever, to get that experience. So then of course I'm like losing money because it's an indie band. Like they're not buying my food, like yeah, maybe I don't have to, we were all sleeping in a van, but or a bandwagon. But so you just have to be careful. Stay on top of your money. Make sure you're registered as a business so you can write off your expenses. Um, and yeah, like it can be expensive. The tour that I went on, like there are also last minute things that pop up that you would have never expected. Like for example, with us, um, our bus broke down in Paris and we had a show the next day in London. Obviously, that's not going to work. So the last minute, that one little problem caused a waterfall of extra costs because when you think about it, okay, now we have to get the crew a hotel room day of in Paris. Because we had one day bed or day room, so like a hotel that you just get so that everyone can shower. Um, but obviously there's like nine of us, so we're gonna need more. And now we have to account for the bus drivers as well. So that was an extra cost of finding a hotel room last minute night of. Then, of course, the bus company love them, but they were like, okay, we'll get you a new bus at 2 in the morning. We're like, okay, perfect. 11 o'clock at night comes around. Oh, the bus won't be there till 5. Okay, perfect, because we actually have to be at the ferry to get to London at 6. So how are we going to get from Paris to the ferry? Makes no sense. Anyway, we'll have to take a later one. Okay, well then how are we going to make sound check? Like it's like a waterfall of events. So what ended up happening was my TM found a 5 bedroom or 5 bed hotel, so five of us, six of us actually went to that hotel room and slept for 3 hours while the headliner, opener, and band were gonna just take a flight to London. So all of those extra plane tickets are now added to the cost. Um, and we weren't gonna make the ferry, so we ended up having to take the train that goes underwater, which was like I think 1,400 euro. That was not gonna be like that's like just something that now is added on. So that one thing of the bus breaking down, like I don't even want to put a number to how much extra money that must have added to the tour. It was fine because luckily we were like it all worked out. We got to London, we played the show. But you don't really know what's going to come up until it happens. And honestly, like it was kind of a funny night for me because I'm not the one paying it. But I'm sure the headliner who's paying for all that was like, oh, great. Like, you know, I was like, this is so funny. Like, I'm in a 5 bed hotel room with like these people that I've known for a month and like love them. But yeah, I was like, I'm sure I wouldn't have found it funny if I had to pay like all of those extra costs.
Yeah, and somebody probably thought 750. That sounds insane. There's no way that's exactly how that number gets up so high, guys. Like our bus broke down twice. Our bus caught on fire in the middle of the desert, like 9 hours from civilization. So that tow, I mean, actually, to be fair, I don't think they had to pay the tow. The bus company did, but we still had to rent the van. We still had to deal with the hotels, and that happened multiple times. It was a very long tour as well. That these things stack up, right? Plus, you got all the meals, and we had a huge crew. So it guys, it adds up. It does. Now, you might be thinking, well, why the hell would I tour if I'm just going to lose money? Um, that's a very good question. Ultimately, we love it. We do it because we love it. But in reality, it is one of you can make money touring, and selling merch is that way. Ticket sales usually aren't going to be the way you're making your money. It's going to be merch. You're just going to be gaining fans. So it's an investment into yourself. That's what touring is. It's also support. It's to help you. It's to help scale. What's the purpose of touring? Touring is to help you scale your career. And I actually seen a really great question pop up in the chat earlier.
Yes, we have questions in the chat, so I'll just be going down them.
Hey,
If you hire specific musicians to play on your song or album, should you hire those same musicians or look for other people who specialize in touring?
that was the one I seen. Um, yes, a touring musician is a specialty thing. Usually, people can do both. There's people that have preferences. Your people you hire on the album have not a different skill set. They can have a different skill set. Um, and it is kind of important to keep that in mind. It's very situational. It's player by player, and it's also depending on what you can afford. Because I have, like depending on the level you're looking at, like I have a lot of people that hire me for records, and then they want to go on tour and they can't afford it, just because they're not at wherever they don't have the budget for whatever it is. And to me, it's not worth going out for less than whatever that sum is. So it's very situational. But I do market myself as a touring guitarist, and part of the advantage of I would say in the way I package myself, hire me because I can play on your album and I'll go on tour with you, and I have everything that's needed for that, the skill sets around that. So that's how I chose to market myself. But I have lots of friends that just do one or the other, primarily. And the musicians that I hire, like my studio drummer, I don't tour with. I have a touring drummer, and then I have a studio drummer, or I have touring drummers I hire, and then I have my studio drummer, and then same thing for, honestly, actually, no, my auxiliary instrumentalist is a studio guy only. He's a Kevin Fox. He's a cellist, strings. Um, and other than that, yeah, those are like my studio guys that don't come on the road with me. I would just either put, well, obviously, won't put drums in the tracks, but I put Kevin in the tracks, and because I can't afford them, honestly. I would love to have them on the road, but I don't have an extra, $1,500 a week to bring a cellist, because that's about what it is, or it should be in a a reasonable sum. Um, yeah, it's very dependent. The personal relationships are heavy though too, right? So
Yeah, honestly, you said it perfectly. I have nothing to add there. Like I think that for me, I haven't done anything where I would have hired a full band for any of like the touring that I've done like on a smaller scale for my own artist project. It's just kind of the same thing of like just because to my genre, like a lot of the music that I was making was pretty electronic. But I hired some of my friends who happened to be touring like already. And they were like in like my friend who is in a heavy metal band that tours, I hired him to like be my guitar for a few shows in a row. Um, and that was just more of like a networking thing, but I think that like everything that Lyric said was absolutely spot on. It just kind of depends on the circumstance.
oh, I want to add something for a question we had earlier. I think about like what's important to get on the road, and like we were talking about tour managers, and an MD, guys, is really important. Now, the MD is one of the most commonly share hat things. Like it's usually a band member. But you should have, and for those who don't know, music director. You should have a music director, someone who makes the final call. It can be you. You can be the MD. Just make sure you're ready the MD is the one who's in charge of wrangling the monkeys. That's everybody in the band. Monkey right here. So you got to have someone that's ready for that. Usually I often see it be someone from the rhythm section, occasionally a guitar player, that helps put the show together. And the MD's job is to arrange the tunes, often making sure the tracks are good. They're making sure visuals are going the way they should be, stuff like that.
Yeah. Like I think on the last tour, the MD was the drummer. And so it's like it just kind of depends on where like who makes sense and who kind of knows what they're doing in terms of like the tracks and the tech and just making sure everything's kind of running okay. But 100% like yeah. Sometimes it can be your front of house, but I usually it's someone in the band.
Yeah. What do we got next?
Awesome. Charlotte asks, what would your rig be if it's just you, a guitar, a looper machine, and your laptop that has drums and bass?
So you need a way to get those drums and bass to front of house, and you want to be able to hear it. If you're running drums and bass, 100% guys, if you aren't, run a click. Get used to it. Click is God. Click is everything. So you should have an interface that you can run the click through. You're going to need a multi-output interface. The SSL 2 Plus is probably the cheapest, best option for that. It has 4 physical outs on the back that are TRS, they're not XLR. But yeah, 4 outs in the back, and then you have 2 headphone outs, so a total of 6, which is excellent. And that's what you want. 2 inputs, and you put your guitar, your vocal, 1 and 2, and then your tracks, and you just run it live from the session. It is the easiest, most cost-effective way. And then your ears are just running direct off your headphone. Not so you hear yourself. In that kind of setup, I would not go for something like a Sennheiser G4 unit or G3. I would just get like a PSM 300 or even the X5 at that level. I think that it would serve you well, save a ton of money. They're about $300, $400, $500, something like that. If you can find a PSM 300 in the $500 range, it'd be great. Usually they retail for around like close to $1,000, $800 and change, something like that. That's what your basic rig would look like, though. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's super simple. Simple is everything, guys. Like you don't need to overcomplicate it. And if you wanted to get a little better at that same kind of rig, I would upgrade to like an iConnectivity interface. And this is an interface that's specifically designed for live playback. You can use it in the studio. That's not what it's for.
Yeah, absolutely nothing to add there. That was an all lyric question because I was like, I have no idea.
Rigs.
Yeah, I'm like, go to him.
What do we got?
David asks, would a label be the most advantageous play for a band that is highly produced and has a tight live performance but is lacking the initial investment and know how to book a domestic tour?
That's tough.
Yeah, I was just about to say this is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's so situationally dependent on type of music as well. Dave, I know you're a prog band, so I'm gonna say no. It's not, especially in your genre. I've mentioned this a couple times. Talk to Jupiter Hollow, Grant from Jupiter Hollow. Use them as a reference. I'm not affiliated in any way other than I know this band, I've seen them a bunch, and the bass players or the guitar players become a friend of mine. They have it figured out so well for a no label touring band. They're probably the only small band I know that actively makes money every single time they tour. He sells tickets and makes money on his ticket sales, and he makes money on his merch, and they sell albums, like physical albums in the mail too. It's crazy. I don't know how these guys are doing it. Actually, I do kind of know, but they're great. For that area in that genre, I would not go for a label. You better off to find an investor, which is something that I think a lot of people overlook and forget about. Find an angel investor, fantastic. I've had 1 or 2 over the years that helped my earlier tours when I was younger. Obviously, it's easier to say, hey, invest in this kid. Hey, look at he's like 15 and full of hopes and dreams and everything positive in the life before it all gets sucked out of you. Anyways, angel investors are one, or just have an investor that wants to work with your brand, or so he gets invest this much and you can get this percentage of this, or we can promise you this much merch sales. And here's what we're doing. Have a marketing plan. You got to approach these guys. You got to shop them. And labels are going to be the same way. Find a more advantageous area for you. The issue with labels nowadays is that they're not interested in doing any of the investing. They want someone who's pretty much a finished product. Otherwise, forget about it. And even so, The last good label deal I seen, like realistically, for reference, I've been in and out of three with Dead Romantic in the last 2 years. Um, the last good one I seen was one that I got from my band in 2015. The label went under. So, you know, notes, guys, notes. I thought.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that that answered it perfectly. Like it is very situational. Um, like obviously the money part is hard because you want to like it costs money to tour, but I don't know if a label would be the best move just because it's just so situational. But I think that like do all that you can to learn as much as you can about things like running ads and that type of thing so that you don't have to hire someone else to do it. If you have the resources to learn, try to learn.
Yeah.
If you guys had to name one thing each that is the most important part of touring, what would it be?
Hmm. Okay, I'll go physical object and then non-physical object. If you're leaving Canada, like if you're, I guess leaving North America, like an adapter. An adapter was so like a universal adapter specifically, um, was a lifesaver just because like the plugs are all different. So yeah, having that, um, that I'd say would be a big thing. Or like even a water bottle, like making sure you have a water bottle. Sometimes you'll run out of water on the bus and you don't want to be in that situation. Um, but so that's like a physical, like tangible object that I would say like was my lifesaver. But the most important part that like is more of a general idea, I think, is touring is an endurance thing. Um, so it's having like the endurance and the fortitude to kind of like start this project and sometimes it goes on sometimes the tour is short. It doesn't matter actually how short or long the tour is. I think that endurance is important either way, and the things that kind of come with that is like good communication with your team. You don't want to build up resentment. Just know that like this is like a marathon, not a race, like not a sprint or whatever the phrase is. And yeah, just like making sure that you're communicating well and just know that like it's endurance based. So yeah, Lyric, over to you.
For me, I'll show you guys. It's what I keep in my pocket, and that is these two things. If I could only pick one, it'd be this. This is a flashlight. You need this. You don't think you need this. You need this. I promise you. They're the most used item of the entire tour, more than the freaking guitars, I swear. A little flashlight that you can keep on you at all times, so you're not killing your phone battery, is just something you want. Venues are dark. You're loading out at night. You're not playing in the middle of the day usually. And then number two, I like to keep a little pocket knife. It's just handy to have around. You never know when, someone has a little cable tie on they need cut off, or the merch needs to be opened, or any number of things. A little Swiss Army knife is actually honestly a little bit of a better call than something like this. I just like how low profile it is.
Genuinely, yes. I can't believe I forgot that. That was like my biggest lifesaver. That and gaff tape. Gaff tape
Yes. Oh,
is
yes. And spike
like,
tape. Spike tape too is for
yeah.
gluing things. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Doesn't matter if you're tech or not. Yes, that was an excellent
And markers, weirdly.
markers.
Like markers, a pocket knife and tape. Like it's like crafts.
Flashlight for me. I also
Yes.
would highly recommend. Some people like headlamps. If you get something like this and you wear a ball cap, I now have a headlamp. Little things to think about. If having your hands free while you're packing up is great. So headlamp, another option, or just like I said, find something that works for you. Um, what else we got?
What does a day in the life look like for someone on tour?
Um, I think
I'm
it
gonna pull. Oh,
depends on.
sorry.
Go for it. No, I'll tell you.
No, I was just gonna say I'm gonna pull up my master tour and see like find a literal day in the life and then read it out to you guys. So you can start, Lyric.
All right. Depends on the tour. I typically I'll give a couple examples. I'll start with a big bus tour. It was wake up in the city, usually because you drive overnight. So wake up in the city, find out what city I'm in, um, hit gym, like Anytime Fitness, something like that. If you can get a membership to like a lot of places, it's great. You don't have if you're not having to shower on the bus, that's awesome. Saves water. Everyone likes that. And you can have a longer shower because usually you're doing military showers on the bus, right, to conserve water and not fill up the black tanks, the gray tank. So I'd hit the gym, do a workout, have a shower, run back. Usually I do a bit of office work or business work for a couple hours. Then I would do my practice. I do my daily practice every day. Lunch around that time, usually have a little powwow with the band, figure out our day's itinerary, where they need us to be. Sound check, depending on if we're headlining or not. It would either be, if it's our headlining, usually sound checks are first thing. Otherwise, they're a little later towards the early afternoon. And then so I have lunch, do a debrief, run a sound check, come back, rest up in the bus or schmooze so that the venue, talk to the band, so whatever you're doing, rip a show, come back to bus, do your cool down, drummers do your cool down warm ups, vocalists, same thing, or anybody really, if that's what you're into. And then, yeah, re up for the next day. I mean, at that point, it can usually be you go out watching the bands, you can go hang out with some of the the venue promoters. It's good to network, guys. You're on the road. As much as I say you gotta be mindful to your health and everything. Go home, sleep, and this and that. Yeah. But you gotta find a balance that works for you, right? And then sleep and repeat. A more brutal tour like China was pretty much. I'll start from the end of the show. We'd pack up, tear down, talk to fans, run back, grab about 2 to 5 hours of sleep, wake up first thing, catch a train, get into city, get right to venue, unload in, sound check, dinner, play, pack, hotel, 2 to 3, 5 hours sleep, something like that, rinse, repeat. So no, and I kind of don't know, Mikalyn almost talked about it's important to get time for yourself. You might have to try and make yourself some time for yourself, but there will be be ready for the fact that there will be tours where you do not get any time for yourself. Like when I was doing the fell, I was driving too. So it was wake up at 6, drive for about 3-4 hours, load in, eat, chill with merch people for about an hour, sound check, show, load out, hotel, sleep, up again, repeat. And it was and we had shows every day. We'd one off day in that tour. So yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Like I don't know if it'll let me. Okay, yeah. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna go through the effort of turning off my background, but trust that. Wait, maybe if I hold it in front of my face. This is Master Tour. And Master Tour this is a day in Master Tour. So up at the front here, you have day notes, door code, Wi-Fi, whatever. Hospitality, yes. Catering, no. That means that we get a payout. Awesome. But that also means that someone's gonna have to run out and get food. So it's like little things there. Like it lays out the green rooms and the community room, the dining room. So this is an example of our first show of the Europe leg of the tour. So the schedule would be, and like there's other information like travel notes. It tells you where to park the bus, like or where you're gonna park the bus. This is all done by your TM, by the way. Your tour manager puts all of this in. And so our schedule for this show was 10 a.m. bus arrive at venue, 11 to 12 load in. It was longer than that, but that's like what we had scheduled. Also at 11 a.m., the truck arrived at the venue because for us, our bus didn't have enough space and storage for us to have like all of the stuff that we needed. So we actually ended up needing to rent a little transport truck. So that was like another cost that like wasn't planned on because for the Canadian and American leg of the tour, we were able to like attach a trailer to the bus, but we couldn't do that in Europe. So we ended up having to get another bus, which means a truck, which means another truck driver. Shout out to Steve, like he was great, but like these costs like add up. Yeah. So anyway, truck arrives as well at 11. That's where all of the merch was. So that's where me and my other merch girl like really started our day. Stage setup from 12 to 1, 1 to 2 band line check, 2 to 4:30 headliner line check or sound check, 4:30 to 5 opener sound check, 5 to 5:30 meet and greet setup, and then 5:30 to 6:30 is the first meet and greet that we did. 6:30 to 7 was VIP 2. And then doors for everyone else was at 7. They had an hour to get in there, and then opener started at 8 to 8:30. Changeover was 8:30 to 8:50, and then the headliner played from 8:50 to 10:20. 10:20 to 11:59 was our load out. And usually like whatever the loadout time is that like ends on there, that's when you have to be out of the venue. Like they don't want you there anymore. All the venue workers want to go home, so make sure you're packed up by then. And then at 1 o'clock we left for Antwerp, which was a 9 hour, 20-minute drive. So that was like a day in the life. Now within there, you're trying to make sure you remember to eat. Usually like how we do it since like there was two merch girls on the tour, so it was me and my friend Alice. And usually I had like since I was doing mostly the openers merch, I had less of a setup than she did because she was doing all the headliner stuff. And so I would be the one to run out and grab food. Um and sometimes I'd grab food for like the whole crew. Sometimes you get catering, sometimes you don't. Like it depends. You pay for it. It's not like free catering. But again, like that was like a day in the life. That was generally a show day. And yeah, it tended to be like that, except for the days, some days like you have to do things like cross load, especially when and if you're in Europe, the roads are too small for your buses, and so you have to cross load, which sucks so bad. But whatever, you get used to it.
Actually, I want to post it. You made it that you said you had to pay for catering.
Yeah, well, not me. Like,
Man, I've never had to pay for catering.
really?
Never. No.
Oh,
It's
okay,
always
well,
been part of our contract.
damn.
So you can write that stuff in your contract, guys. So you can write like what you get. And like when I'm on the road with Edwin, he has his funny things. Every green room has socks, and he hates
Hey,
dirty feet and the smell of feet. So the rule is when you go on the bus, there's two managers there at the garbage bag. Your socks go in. There's fresh socks for you every show.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
kind of like that rule.
Funny little things, but you're in confined space. You got to be mindful for it. But yeah, a lot of like often catering stuff can be put into the contracts.
Mhm.
Maybe I've just been really lucky so far. That's very possible. And I'm going to get screwed with a massive catering bill on my next tour just because I said something. Uh,
Surely not. Surely not. But yeah, that's the other thing is like everyone kind of has their own little intricacies on tour, so try to learn like what the people around you enjoy doing and like how they enjoy living and try to be respectful of that because you're going to be with them for quite some time in a condensed space. So like if you know that like this one person hates the smell of like this thing, don't be like shh, lysoling the like bus or something. Um
you're like beefing with them or something, in which case,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
bad advice from Lyric over here.
No, it's funny.
Or
What else do we got here?
do you guys have any tips on finding good bands and venues when you're booking your own smaller tour?
Um, Word of mouth again.
Hmm.
I hate to keep saying that, but word of mouth. Like, talk to people, guys. Be friendly. If you don't talk to nobody, you're not going to find nobody. So that's my big piece of advice. Most of the bands that I've toured and played with have come from either they're found by agents or word of mouth slash, making friends on social media. Same thing, word of mouth. I'll consider that.
Yeah, and I think like to add to that, going to shows yourself, like as a fan, as an audience member, found some of my favorite bands through just like going to little venues in the city that I like am based in at the time. Um, and just being an active member of like your music community. So going out and going to these shows where you're like seeing and meeting people.
Mikalyn mentioned van tours and bus tours. So what are the advantages slash disadvantages of each?
Hmm. Lyric, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. Um, Advantages of van tours cost. Disadvantage sleeping arrangements. Um, in its most simple terms, that's the advantages and disadvantages. Buses are really expensive because you can't just have any old license to drive a bus. You're going to have to go to a bus company. And then you got to pay your driver. And you got to deal with all that stuff. So, and get the bus and pay for insurance and everything else. Um, so I would not do a bus tour unless you're very established or you have a big budget that you're willing to put out because that's usually the biggest difference is budget. Um, Fan tours, I mean, I've actually only ever done a few tours like sleeping in vans. I have done them, but no more than probably half a dozen. Usually, if I do a van tour, they're hotel tours. So we have a bandwagon kind of thing, and then we just get rooms every night. Or you can just get a day room, like Mikalyn had mentioned, which is just I have done that too. It's just typically we run, if we're doing van tours, and mostly it's a smaller crew. And I'm at the point now where most of the bigger crews I'm running are bus tours or their hotel tours, like where they have the budget for it. And you'd be surprised, it's cheaper to get like we just did a splash tour. It was significantly cheaper to get like 5 hotel rooms every night than it was to rent the bus for the stint. So, it's pricey, guys. It's really pricey.
Yeah, and especially if you're in Europe, like a lot of people sometimes do like hotels and trains instead of doing like a bus tour. I mean, it's harder to do the train thing here because
There's no trains.
there's no like well, yeah, exactly. Um, so I was like, I'm just looking out my window and being like, well, where's the train track? Nowhere. And it takes forever. So, um, I think advantage exactly what Lyric said. Like the advantage of a van tour is it's cheaper. And the advantage of the bus tour is it's like I like having the space. I honestly really liked sleeping on the bus. I like the little like coffin-esque like I loved it. I loved my bunk. I felt like a cocoon. Like it was I really enjoyed it. So I don't mind sleeping on the bus at all. And like I was really lucky. I'm tall. I'm 5'11" and I was able to stretch up like completely on and my TM is like he's like 6'4", 6'5", and he also like had ample room. So we were lucky. Like our bus, the cubbies that you have were long. Um, so if you're okay with like that type of thing, I think that bus tours are actually nice. And if you're not the one footing the bill, like I had an awesome time. I loved the bus until it broke down. And then I loved the one that they replaced it with. And then I loved the one that they replaced it with again when the next one broke down. So like, the other thing is buses aren't the most reliable, I guess. At least in our experience. Apparently, like they're not supposed to break down that much, but I
There are
don't know.
fleet managers not doing their job. Is what that is. For those who know me, I have a legal practice and I do traffic laws and I work with these companies. Yeah, it's almost always what it is. They should be quite reliable. Most issues we had were like not like hard mechanical related. It'd be like service related. So we had a tire blow, and then we had an issue with the brakes, and then like the minibus caught on fire because brakes were seized. So like that's a replaceable part. It's not like there's a serious component that went wrong. Yeah, I have notes things that I forget now. It'll come back to me.
Awesome. Well, for a final question, how has touring/touring culture changed since you started touring?
Oh God.
This is lyric. This is all lyric because I'm newer to it. So I feel like I just like every time I do it, it's like, oh, new, you know. But lyric, this is all you.
Yeah. Touring culture has changed a lot over the years for me. People aren't coming out to shows anymore. I mean, they kind of are. It depends on the show you're doing. Um, I think the biggest shift is the shift in seeing greedier venues. It's becoming more and more common to see venues requesting a cut of merch. Um, it's getting harder, guys. The cost of living is going up. It's getting harder to make money, and it ultimately the musicians are just getting strangled out. There is a very good podcast. I forget the name of the podcast. If anyone knows it, they can put it in the chat. And they had the guy from Periphery on there talking about touring specifically, and almost what a lost cause it is. It's not that it's a lost cause, but they were mentioning how they go out as a very big and well-known band in the prog world too. I'll add in, and they pretty much break even every tour. These are established guys that have been doing this for a long time, so it's getting harder and harder to. It's getting more expensive. Is the biggest way it's changing. Um, Other than that, I mean, unfortunately, it's becoming less common. If anything, it's fading out a bit. You're not seeing as many small bands who do these little van tours and stuff like that, just because the cost of living is going up so much. So the scene's a bit more barren, if you will. I'm sure someone with who's in a different location or different experiences might completely contradict me on that, and have a different experience. But from what I've gathered and what I've seen, it's becoming less popular. It's becoming harder to make money. But I am noticing, for the people that are still going out, they're appreciating it more. I'm getting more fans that are like really in, like we see these shows now, like we go to a new city and like people are like doing the research on the band before. We don't know what the fell. We were so surprised to see, like, to be fair, like, we had pretty bad promotion on that tour, and by pretty bad I mean terrible. Um, but we still had fans coming out to shows singing every lyric the songs. Young fans too, which we were surprised because it's an older band. Like we would have thought our target market would be more towards like 30 plus, like in that range, because Billy's been was with Mr. Big for so long, and all those, like anyone who grew up in the 80s and 90s is who's going to come to these shows, but it wasn't. So we're seeing a slight new wave of well, less but more hardcore fans, if you will. That's my observation as of late.
Yeah, nothing to add there. I think that like um I can't really speak to how it's changed just because I haven't been doing it as long. So, but I would agree. Like I think that like the fans that do come out are very dedicated. Um I can speak a little bit how like the markets I find are different in like different countries and continents. I found that in Canada and the States, merch sales were incredible. And then the second we got to Europe, basing our merch off of how we sold in Canada and the States, we very quickly learned that merch was very different over there. And they do not buy merch as much as Canadians and Americans do. So like I feel like every market's a little bit different, but I do think that like overall what Lyric's saying is still like the biggest point.
A quick question for Mikalyn, actually. Do you think that's because just the market, or is it perhaps if they buy different merch over there?
See, and that's what we were kind of debating, but Alice and I, the girl who was also running merch, we were asking a bunch of her merch friends. Um, However, they do a lot of like more like metal shows, but they had actually warned us in advance that merch sales were lower in Europe. And we were like, whatever. What I will say though is, although like t-shirts and shirts were lower, we were selling hoodies and t-shirts. And right about we had like more hoodies and t-shirts because those sold better in Canada and the States. And then as we were there, the heat wave came upon us. And so obviously we're not selling as many hoodies. And I will say, Europe, we sold a lot more vinyl than we did anywhere else. So the type of merch that they're buying was a little bit different, and we just hadn't properly anticipated it. So yeah.
Awesome. Just a quick question from Tia. What was the for Lyrics IEM workshop, what was the affordable pair of IEMs? Like what was the brand called?
Oh, CCAs. I think they've recently had a merger with KZ. I've had KZ ones before and didn't like them, so just be noted. There's different levels to it. You want to get the ones that cost, I think they're like anywhere from 40 to 70 bucks. They're 10 driver in here, at least 10 drivers is what I aim for. So CCA, I think they're called. I have the C12s or C10s. C12s, I think. They're purple. What other brand was it good? There was another one that we just tried. We were just the band and I were just talking about this yesterday because we got on this Jennifer gig. The bass player had some SE215s and like wasn't loving them. So yeah, CCAs, and then I would maybe check out some of the new KZs. They're worth it for guys, like for the price. It's like 50 bucks, 70 bucks. That's take in terms of in-ears money. Like the good ears are like 2 grand. So
Awesome. Well, on behalf of the Canadian Musicians Cooperative, we would like to thank both Mikalyn and Lyric for sharing your experiences, knowledge, and resources. For anyone watching this live stream publicly, we have more public workshops planned for the summer session, as well as our Barns to Beaches showcase tour. You can find more information on our website at www.canadianmusicians.coop. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you again to Mikalyn and Lyric for your presentation today. Please also, artists, fill out the feedback form. The feedback form should be in both the Zoom chat as well as Slack.